Hello friends, this is Dr. Pankaj Kumar, your mentor for the Neat Bites. In today's sessions, we will be talking about replication of DNA, right? So the DNA replication is semi-conservative, right? So first of all, let's try to understand what exactly we mean by semi-conservative. In case of semi-conservative, what happens? That half of the strand is the original or parental one, right? And the another half is actually being newly synthesized. Okay, so that's why half is actually conserved and half is the new. That's why we call them that it is a semi-conservative. You can see in the diagram itself, right? You can see in there that the blue color strand is actually the old strand, right? And by the red color, I have shown that a newly strand is going to be synthesized. Okay, so this is how actually it works. So this entire process is enzyme driven, and in today's sessions we are going to talk about that how the synthesis process is going to occur in a stepwise manner, right? But first of all, let's talk about the evidences that which experiments eventually prove that DNA replication is semi-conservative. And in that series, the very first is the experiment that was proved by Michelson and Stahl. Okay. They did their experiment with E. coli, and the name of the experiment what we call DNA banding techniques. Okay, in which what happens that E. coli were grown along with the radioactive material, right? And depending upon the band that is being formed in after ultracentrifugation, it is actually proved that DNA is a genetic material. Now we will discuss about all those things in separate sessions where we are supposed to learn the Michelson and Stahl techniques of the semi-conservative mode of DNA replication. Similarly, in case of eukaryotes, what happens? That it was J. Taylor who proved that DNA replication is semi-conservative, and his experimental plant was VCF fava, right? So these two names you need to remember as far as competitive exams or NEET is concerned. Okay. We will be talking about the semi-conservative mode of replication, but that we will be discussing with reference to prokaryote, not in eukaryote, right? Prokaryote is a simpler. So first of all, we will learn that how the replication is going to occur. Now let's acquaint ourselves with some important term. And one of the important term is replicon, Now what is replicon? Now replicon is the site where actually the replication is happening. Okay. Now, if you compare the prokaryotes and eukaryotes, we can see that in case of prokaryote, the number of replicon is 1, right? That's why we call them monorepliconic. But in case of eukaryote, what we see, that number of replicon is more than 1. Okay, so you can see in the diagram also that the 3 replicon you can see, this is a linear DNA molecule, right? In the linear DNA molecule, you can see that at a time, the more than 1 replicon is formed in a eukaryotic DNA. That's why you call them, it is a multi-repliconic. Okay. Now let's start discussing the different steps, right? So let's talk about, first of all, step 1. In case of a step 1, we will be learning about that how the unwinding of DNA is going to happen, right? So have a look at this diagram. This is a simple DNA, right? In which the polarity in terms of 3' and 5' is shown over there. And mind it, the moment we talk about DNA, particularly in case of DNA replication, we need to understand the polarity, right? Because one key thing what you have to keep in mind, that synthesis always going to occur in 5' to 3' direction. I repeat, synthesis always occur in 5' to 3'. We will see it. First of all, let's learn that what is going to happen when the DNA chain is going to open, right? And this opening is actually facilitated by enzyme called helicase. So what is the function of helicase? The function of the helicase is that the hydrogen bond that is present between the DNA, that is going to be broken. Okay. And once the hydrogen bond is broken, then what will happen? The DNA strand will be separated for the further course of action. Okay. Another job is that the DNA strand has to remain in a separated position. Because if it is going to remain in a separated position, then only the synthesis can occur. Okay. So here, another protein is being utilized, what we call SSB protein, that is single strand bound protein, right? So that protein helps them to keep the DNA strand in an open condition so that a further course of enzymatic action could happen, right? And the structure that is formed is actually called as a replication fork. Mind it, if the place of replication is in the midpoint of the DNA, right, then we use the term replicon. But if the replication is going to happen at the terminal end, we use the word replication fork, as you can see in the diagram, right? Let's see the step 2. Now step 2, we call them priming. Now what is priming? Of course, by priming, a primer is formed. But the question is that why priming is required? You know, DNA polymerase cannot work without the primer. So priming helps them in getting free hydroxyl group, right? And it is the DNA polymerase which required those free hydroxyl group to initiate the process. So that's why priming is required. And the priming is actually being done by the RNA polymerase or primase, right? And the very function of the priming is that they form very small segment of RNA, okay? As you can see in the diagram. Mind it, synthesis always occur in 5' to 3' directions, right? So according to that, you will see that synthesis is occurring from 5' to 3', okay? You can see over here, right? Here what you see, that synthesis is occurring in 5' to 3' directions, right? In this, if you see here, right, this particular position is actually 3. So naturally the newly synthesized is going to be 5, right? So here also the synthesis is going to occur in 5' to 3' directions. Okay. So this was the step 2. Let's talk about step 3. In case of step 3, this is a polymerization. And the main polymerizing enzyme is what? DNA polymerase 3. In prokaryotes, there are 3 types of DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase 1, DNA polymerase 2, DNA polymerase 3, right? And DNA polymerase 3 is the main enzyme that do the polymerization. Now, what exactly we mean by polymerization? The polymerization is the DNA synthesis, right? And the DNA synthesis is going to occur by complementary base pairing. Okay, so whatever strand you see, if there is an adenine, then the complementary base pair is going to be thymine. According to that, the synthesis is going to happen. Mind it, that synthesis always begin from the RNA primer. So RNA primer, as I told you, is going to provide the free hydroxyl group. But here also, you see the synthesis always occur in 5' to 3' directions, right? You see here that this is a 3'. For what? For RNA. Then this is going to combine with a 5'. This 5' is for what? This 5' is for DNA, that is a blue color structure, right? So naturally it is going to, then again it is going to be 3'. So here what we see, synthesis always occur from 5' to 3' directions, right? Let's talk about step 4. In case of step 4, we will learn about leading and lagging strand, right? And I would like to have your complete concentration because perhaps this is the step in which we need to understand. So have a look at this diagram. Now, in this diagram, what I have shown, that DNA chain has further open, okay? And whatever the structure you can see over here in both the strand, this is the continuation of the diagram what we have seen in the previous slides, right? So up till this point of time, what happens? This is the amount of DNA that has already been synthesized when initially it has opened, okay? So we know very well further chain will grow only when the chain is going to further open, right? So when it is going to grow further open, what will happen? One of the strand is going to act as a leading strand. Okay, now why they are going to act as a leading strand? Let's try to understand it. You see, this is the 3' structure, right? And here what happens, that this is a 5' structure, okay? We know very well synthesis is going to occur from 5' to 3'. So from here, what we can say, it can grow easily, right? So this particular strand, we will call them as a leading strand. But if you come over here, what will happen? That in this strand, it cannot go backward, right? Because synthesis occur in 5' to 3' directions. Okay, so here what will happen? Again, there is a RNA is going to be formed. So this is going to be RNA primer. Okay, So this is going to be RNA primer, right? And this RNA primer, right? And from there, what will happen? That again the DNA is going to be synthesized, right? So in this strand, what we see that synthesis is not continuous, rather discontinuous, because if it is going to open further, right, what will happen? Again, in this particular strand, what we will see that synthesis is always going to happen in a discontinuous manner. Okay, so have a look at this diagram. You can see there that in one strand the synthesis is continuous, which I have already explained you, right? And in another strand, what happens that the synthesis is going to be discontinuous. You can see there by red the RNA primer being formed, and again synthesis is going to happen. By blue I have shown the DNA. Okay, so one is the leading strand where the synthesis is continuous, another is the lagging strand where the synthesis is discontinuous. Okay, and in the lagging strand small fragments of DNA are being formed, and those fragments are actually called as a Okazaki fragments, right? So let's see that what is going to happen. As we have already told you, as a result of further opening of the chain, one strand is going to act as a continuous, another as a discontinuous, right? Discontinuous synthesis is known as a lagging, and in the lagging Okazaki fragments are formed. Again, the same diagram you can see over there. So that is an extension of the same thing what we have seen in the earlier case, right? So one strand is going to act as a discontinuous, another is going to act as a continuous strand, right? Okay, let's talk about step 5. In case of the step 5, we use the DNA polymerase 1, right? Now, what is the action of DNA polymerase 1? First, it acts as a proofreader. Now, why proofreading is required? Because you see, during course of replication, it may happen that some base pairs are wrongly inserted. So, the very job of DNA polymerase 1 is to identify those wrongly inserted base pairs. It not only identify, but also remove it. And after removal, it just put in the correct base pairs. Okay, so that is the functions. Okay. Now, one thing let's try to understand. You see, we have seen that DNA polymerase is going to work in 5' to 3' directions, right? But DNA polymerase 1, due to the very special job that has been assigned to it, it can work in both directions. It can work in 5' to 3' as well as 3 to 5'. Right? So that is the important thing what you have to keep in your mind, right? So this is about the DNA polymerase 1. So that was our step 5. Let's talk about step 6. Now step 6 is the DNA ligase. Now one thing I would like to add about DNA ligase, you see, all the steps in DNA replication was enzyme driven as well as it requires energy in the form of ATP, except DNA ligase, because DNA ligase is a NAD dependent enzyme. Okay, it doesn't require any ATP, right? And the very function of the DNA ligase is that it is going to bind the base or bind the backbone in terms of formation of the phosphodiester bond, right? So it forms a phosphodiester bond. So what we can say, it seals the gap. Mind it, DNA polymerase 1 fills the gap, right? But as far as the sealing of the gap in terms of formation of phosphodiester bond is concerned, that is actually being done by the DNA ligase, right? Let's come to our final step, that is topoisomerase. And have a look at this diagram first. Now this is a very simple DNA structure, right? Now once the DNA is going to open, what will happen? It will generate a tension beyond the replicon. You can see there is a replicon, and in beyond there is a region of tension due to opening, right? So the very job of topoisomerase is that it cut at the site of tension, unwound, or in other words, it induce negative coiling, right? And as a negative coiling, what will happen? Tension will be removed and again it joins it. So the very function of the topoisomerase is that it induced negative coiling, right? So this question is also frequently asked in competitive exams. So I hope the DNA replication is well understood at your end, right? Before we conclude, let's talk about that how we can differentiate DNA replication in case of prokaryote and eukaryote, right? We already know that in case of prokaryote, DNA replication is monorepliconic, but in case of eukaryote, it is a multirepliconic. Another big difference is that DNA polymerase 3 is the main replicating enzyme in case of prokaryote, right? But as far as the eukaryote is concerned, we have a set of replicating enzyme. For instance, in case of lagging strand, it is the DNA polymerase alpha. In case of leading strand, it is the DNA polymerase epsilon that is actually being utilized. So there are different types of DNA polymerase for the two strand, that is leading and lagging. Okay, so this is how we can differentiate between prokaryote and the eukaryote. Okay, so before we conclude, have this quiz. Leading and lagging strands are formed simultaneously in both strands of DNA. Is it correct? Because right now we have seen in replication fork, what will happen? One strand was leading, another was lagging. But this statement is saying that leading and lagging strands are formed simultaneously in both strands. Is it correct? Well, have a look. Before I pass on verdict, you can look on your own. So this is a DNA molecule, right? Now what will happen? In this way, the DNA is going to be synthesized, and we know very well synthesis is going to occur in 5' to 3' directions, right? We also know that DNA replication is bidirectional. So if it is a replicon, that means it is going to open from both ends, right? You can see in this diagram, right? So it is going to open from both ends, right? So it will form a structure like this. Okay, so you can see there, it has opened from both ends, right? Now, what you see that as far as the polarity, one strand is going to act as a leading strand. You can see there, here it is a leading strand. Why? Because synthesis is going to 5' to 3', so that's why it is going to grow like that. Okay. But what about the backward direction? Because DNA polymerase cannot go backward. So that's why here the synthesis again is going to occur in terms of again synthesis of RNA primer, and again DNA is going to be synthesized, right? So it means that this is a lagging strand, right? So you can see that in the same strand, we are going to have both leading as well as the lagging. So the above statement is absolutely correct, that in case of replicon, the leading and lagging strands are formed in the same strand. But as far as the replication fork is concerned, right? Fork is the replication that is going to occur in the terminal end, right? Here what we see, that the one strand is going to act as a leading, another is going to act as a lagging. Okay, so that's all from my end. Have a look at this question. Now in this question is saying that in the diagram, the process of DNA replication at a replication fork, right? So the newly synthesized DNA strand labeled C. So what is C? Is it a coding sequence? Is it a parallel DNA? Is it a leading strand? It is a lagging strand. Now how we can identify it? We can identify it simply by the polarity. Okay. So if you see over here, so what you see that in this particular case, this is the 5'. Okay. So naturally above what we see that this is a 3', and this DNA is actually coming here 5'. That means we know very well synthesis always going to occur from 5' to 3', right? But it cannot go beyond that. That means it is a lagging strand, isn't it? So the correct answer for this question is a lagging strand, right? That's all for today. So let's conclude what we have discussed. We have discussed about DNA replication, and we discussed that DNA replication is an enzyme-driven process altogether divided into 7 steps. The first step was unwinding, followed by priming, then polymerization, followed by the formation of leading and lagging strand, then the role of DNA polymerase come, then the role of DNA polymerase 1 come. It is followed by the formation of phosphodiester bond by the DNA ligase, and finally it is the topoisomerase which induces the negative coiling and thereby complete the entire process. Right? Thank you.